With no further ado, Mark, can I ask you to take the reins for 30 minutes and take us forward on the core IP strategy panel?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Dom. Dom, in the meantime, can you make sure that the other ones are co-host as well, so we can
will
them
do.
on? That would be great. Yeah, I would like to welcome actual 5 panelists. So we have to be very, very strict on times. I have Gital from CenturyLink. I have Manuel Vits from G-Core, Jason Donovan from Charter, Thomas Box from Verizon Media, and Eric Klein from Disney Plus, ESPN Plus. Welcome, guys. I would like to give you a 30-second, a really 30-second only pitch, both company and person in 30 seconds. So I would like to start with you, Guy. If you can start.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Guy, by the way. I don't use the French Guy, but I handle the global peering policy for CenturyLink. We're ISP, NSP, CDN, colo provider, really one-stop shop for almost everything internet. I've been in the industry for 20 years.
Okay. Long veteran, especially this time. Manuel, you should be able to speak as well right now.
Hey, well, my name is Manuel. I'm from G-Core Labs, based in Luxembourg. And we provide edge and cloud solution for media business and entertainment. Gaming industry with wargaming, for example, infrastructure. Think of in Russia, the online banking, Joom, e-commerce, Avast, goes from hosting, CDN, cloud, media platform. Yeah, that's us.
Perfect, thank you. Is Jason on yet? Jason.
Yep. Good morning. I'm Jason Donovan, Director of Media Delivery at Charter Communications. Charter is a large cable MSO based in the US, serving over 26 million subscribers.
Thank you. Tom?
Hi, my name is Thomas Box. I am the Director of Solutions Engineering for Verizon Media Platform. We operate the second largest global CDN, with over 105 terabits per second of network capacity. We use a Superpop architecture, and we're deployed in over 150 locations on 6 continents. We manage over 5,000 interconnects, and that results in Verizon Media Platform managing over 10% of the internet every day. I've been working at Verizon since 2015 and met many of you, and I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
Perfect. Thank you. And Eric?
Hey, I'm Eric Klein. I work at Disney Streaming Services. As you already said, Mark, responsible for Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. I handle our content distribution network technology, working with our partners, and as well as developing our in-house caching strategies and solutions as part of that team. I also, in addition, am the co-chair of the Open Caching working group as part of the Streaming Video Alliance, another area that touches greatly upon the content distribution channels.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric. So let's start with you, Guy. Question, you are both a CDN as well as a carrier. So can you give me a highlight on what you see in terms of trends on basically both sides of the spectrum?
Yeah, sure. What we're starting to see now is that, the ability to just go to, the regular tried and true interconnection points in, the US, Europe, Asia, South America, Australia, wherever, doesn't meet the needs for today's consumer and tomorrow's consumer as well. And so we're seeing the need for more and deeper interconnects in, all of these markets. And what we've seen in the past is that, let's, keep it in the US for a minute, and, a customer in Ohio would just, procure fiber, go to Chicago and buy their transit there, because they figure that's where the interconnections are occurring anyway. So there's no reason to buy it in their home markets. And what we're trying to do now is try to enable, that deeper interconnect by ourselves pushing for deeper interconnects with our interconnectivity partners, so that you can connect out of Cleveland and it doesn't have to go to DC or Chicago or New York, wherever the nearest place is. Something that we look at, especially from a CDN perspective, is where are the metropolitan service areas, and so in the U.S., for example, we cover 18 of the top 20, 4 of the next 10, for example. But if you take Cincinnati and Cleveland and Columbus and add them all together as MSAs, then they would bubble up to be number 6 in the market. So we're trying to address that and interconnect in locations that weren't traditionally interconnection points: St. Louis, Houston, Boston, Denver, Nashville, Minneapolis, et cetera, Denver, Phoenix. So that's something that, it's important for CDN delivery. It's important for upcoming 5G access. And that's one of the main things that we're concentrating on and we're seeing as a developing trend.
So really more granular interconnectivity. Basically, that's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Okay. Tom, you, as being one of the larger CDNs out there as well, what's your take on this in making sure that we have large-scale video distribution being able to do this in the future? Tom?
Sorry about that. I was muted. Yeah, and demand for video, especially in this age of work from home, it's an all-time high and growing. So, at an industry level, we need to look at bandwidth and interconnects, but also where the compute resources are. We need to look at different use cases of different streaming formats that can get improvement, and continue to manage the network efficiently. I don't think everyone on today may be thinking beyond OTT streaming of broadcast video. There are other use cases emerging, from gambling to shopping and immersive experiences. So the Verizon Media Platform delivery product is tuned for current streaming video traffic, but being ready for future video use cases means we have to be constantly innovating and discussing what is coming and experimenting with that. So as you mentioned, the Superpop strategy, as we've talked about before, our Superpop strategy with co-locating massive edge support has provided scalability and reliability. To this point, that available edge compute has just been used for B2B products that Verizon Media Platform brings to market. To take our delivery one step further, we have to open up edge compute, and that'll help reduce latency and enable some of these new solutions. For instance, it's no secret Verizon is deploying 5G MEC or multi-access edge compute. That'll bring the edge even closer to end devices on wireless networks, and that'll provide single-digit millisecond latency. Our custom accessible edge compute is designed with Verizon Media 5G MEC, so we'll have seamless compatibility from cloud to edge to wireless. So Verizon Media Platform also operates a video platform that was the first to market with scalable cloud architecture for one-to-one sessions for every connected device. Just caching video chunks to the edge with a tight seeding integration and leveraging a cloud manifest manipulation service provides a TV-like experience. Determining a particular event is mainly focused in one region, and supporting cloud technology at the edge could improve that experience further while reducing a backhaul to the cloud. So along with a data source and some containerized functions at the edge, we could also do AR overlays with the video. Live AR technology was shown by Verizon NFL One Pass app at Super Bowl 54. That could also be applied to tracking a hockey puck or providing the speed of a tennis ball. So, these new experiences are come along, and they're going to be developed by getting more compute at the edge and managing the traffic before it hits the backhaul circuits. So, lastly, all of us are dealing with physical connections. Relationships are a big part of making delivery work well. So getting the shortest logical connection with the most bandwidth is the best place to be. And we work closely with many telecom partners, and being a good partner goes both ways. We have to take on different responsibilities. It's not always the same situation. Maybe Verizon needs to bring business in the form of traffic or make an investment. Maybe the carrier clears some government hurdles or manage the POP deployment. There's just always an interpersonal component and managing that physical layer to get the best service.
Okay, perfect. Eric, you from a more content perspective, Disney has had tremendous growth in the last couple of months. What were your observations that you've seen in terms of traffic distribution at these kind of heights, these kind of numbers?
Sure. Yeah. I think one of the things we do is we leverage a lot of different commercial CDN partners. So we have Verizon, we have CenturyLink, Akamai, Limelight, Fastly, many of the others that are in the space, all kind of working with us. And for the most part, we've seen smooth, stable waters. It's very much a note that the scale that's built into the networks today are capable of handling the traffic today. I think the thing to keep in mind is as things continue to scale and grow, where do things go and how do we keep growing that in an equitable, accessible way? One of the things that we're doing as part of the Open Caching Working Group, which Jason is also a part of, is trying to develop ways to build out scale to the internet and build out scale from a caching mechanism to deploy open cache standard ways to interface and distribute content and leverage caching strategies and content distribution strategies in a consistent way. And in turn, doing so, enabling content providers to get content closer to the edges with all the different partners already existing in the ecosystem. And at the end of the day, improving the customer experience or providing that additional scale. The goal is ultimately that at some point you can continue to scale the cores and you can continue to scale at the edges independently, but we do need to bridge that gap and bring them together to increase capacity that is available to continue to stream at such high quality and with all the different formats that continue to come out.
Yeah, so basically you're saying it's not only about connectivity itself, but it's also about looking at the whole supply chain and see how we can cooperate to do this more efficiently. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It really is about adding efficiency to the process through additional standard approaches, right? Yeah. Recommendations and best practices, as well as some standards as where appropriate to figure out consistency. I think the thing about the distribution ecosystem today is while it works because the internet's designed to work interconnected at scale, there is certainly an opportunity to maybe take what worked when we were doing video distribution for the last 10 years or so and reevaluate that. Could we get a little bit more distributed? Can we ask partners to kind of engage in different areas that they may not have explored before? And that's something where open caching comes into play, is asking internet service providers and edge distribution providers to look at their caching strategies on network, and as a content provider, enable us to engage with that proactively rather than in a more transparent like caching mechanism.
Good. Jason, looking at it from getting traffic in and using your own content that you deliver, how do you look at this from your perspective in getting basically influx of traffic, getting all the traffic in that you need to distribute to your end users?
Well, from our perspective, we've got two models. We've got the content that we process ourselves and serve to our own customers. And for delivering that, we've got our own CDN. It's multi-tiered, and we have caching very deep in our own network. And the important piece of that there is that the design of our CDN aligns very tightly with our network topology. We're really trying to use our CDN to offset scaling of our network, which is our most valuable commodity. Then there's third-party content like Disney. And for serving that, we like to think of our network as democratic. It doesn't discriminate across content or CDNs. We augment our peering year over year to ensure that we can provide a superior experience to our customers for any content that they choose to watch. This is consistent with our goal to provide a superior ISP experience. And peering is one way that we do this, but we're evaluating other ways. Like Eric alluded to, we're a part of SVA and open caching, and we're also talking to basically every major CDN provider out there just to keep abreast of what technologies could be there, because as you probably know, it's mutually beneficial for us and the content provider. We get a savings on our network our network scaling. We don't have to do as much if we have some caching in the network, and they get closer to our customers. So, you know, we're looking at basically all options there.
Just to make it more efficient, also within the network, not only getting traffic in, but also how you distribute it within your own network.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Tom, like I mentioned before, we have the Superpops. Is that something that we see something happening for the future still, or are we really in the end just moving to micro edges all over?
Yeah, we don't see drastic changes there that would cause a fundamental shift. The Superpop architecture works because of broadband. You know, if you can get from your home connection to a server 1,000 miles away as quickly as a series of cached single servers that are widely distributed can get that content, then the Superpop architecture is going to be the fastest way for you to get what your request or get your request fulfilled. That said, we always have to evolve the network. New applications could require hardware or software, new internet exchanges that get set up, make the Verizon Media Platform team reevaluate where we are. So, you know, a new internet exchange may cause us to shift where our POP location is, and we shut down an old one. Scalability is part of the architecture of the Verizon Media Platform POPs, so we can adapt for a specific location. We do see that there's certain carriers, with expansive rural areas that don't have mass broadband. Those could require multiple small POPs in a managed CDN solution is a possibility there. We're open to those kinds of opportunities to make that work. I think about central US, parts of Canada, places like that where that is a possibility. Edge compute's not new to VMP. Our existing B2B services run that, but trying to get that out so our customer developed applications can run on it is new. So we're in the early adoption phase with a few clients asking for capacity. So that's something new that we're bringing out. So how many of those applications run, where they run at the edge, how we deploy that. Those are all things we're figuring out. I'll certainly have more anecdotes in the future as we get more experience with customer and third-party applications at the edge.
Good. Manuel, GCO Labs, also CDN, lots of interconnects using carriers, peerings, PNIs, all kinds of different connectivity strategies. Do you see any shift since, let's say, you guys have started with your CDN, and if you look at now, where do you see this going?
Well, we see definitely some shift, and yeah, there is some shift between private network interconnect and the internet carrier service provider. Well, actually, we can see it, but not in the large scale that people think. I mean, when you speak about private network interconnect, it's like more. It's going to be more like for larger industry sector. I mean, player, a big company where they need to go from one network A to network B, and in a speedway with a speed and some kind of security. I mean, this is going to be like the main trouble. And why people will go to private network is certainly like it's certainly something that it's a solution for the future, but you have also a huge amount, and most of the people most of the company are small companies, and for them it doesn't make a lot of sense to go to a private network interconnect. Then they will continue with internet service provider, and there is no need for them to go for it. So yes, there is a shift due to the security, due to the massive attacks that we see, due to they're trying to hack. So yeah, a closed network will be like a closed network will be more efficient. But we don't see, for us, for the moment, we don't see a huge shift from one to the other.
Okay. Good. Guy, you guys bought StreamRoot last year. Some say for peer-to-peer, some say for the load balancer solution. How can you, what can you explain to us in terms of how to embrace that kind of new technologies within CenturyLink itself?
Sure. So there's a lot of people, here at the company that have been watching the peer-to-peer evolution over, decades now. And at its core, it's really trying to solve the issue of, how do we deal with these larger, the larger need for IP utilization. Whether it's a large event or file downloads, the peaks just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's a couple of different ways to address it. You can go deeper, and so we've done that, and we have we operate multiple POPs in Australia and Germany and Brazil and Japan, etc. You can go look at some of the open caching architectures as well, and that's something that we're involved with as well. Recently we saw some requests out of Europe and Australia and New Zealand to reduce bit rates. And, while you can do that in a pinch, that's not the user experience that either, the content producer or the ISP desire. And so, one of the other technologies that, can help enable flattening the curve, so to speak, is the peer-to-peer. And so one of the things that was interesting about StreamRoot for us was that it has really superior network awareness. Most ISPs don't really need to do anything to reap the benefit of this. This is something that's placed more on the content delivery or content producers, I should say, to enable. And something that StreamRoot can do is it can limit the peer-to-peer within a certain ISP. That's fairly easy to do within a city, and we use other technologies to enable that. And then as when we work with ISPs more deeper, we can even limit it down to keeping the peer-to-peer traffic within a certain prefix or a certain number of prefixes. And so, if any ISPs, want to help optimize for that, we've worked with a couple dozen already. And we have, dozens of customers that have used this technology successfully. We've done multi-terabit events, which, it's not the biggest events, but, it's a multi-terabit event, still nothing to sneeze at in today's I just want to, say that since this is going to be on the internet in a few years, we'll be like multi-terabit, that's nothing. But for now, it's still, a significant event. So, yeah, I mean, the network's critical to keep up. We see that, and we know that the ISP, it's typically within the metro that they have the greatest constraints. It's not really, from pop to pop. So, we're just trying, whatever we can do to give the same, or even actually with Streamer, we see, increased KPIs for all of the, important ones like time to first byte and throughput, et cetera. So we can actually increase the performance and decrease the cost on the ISP, on ourselves as the CDN. It's, kind of a virtuous circle in that respect.
Good. Eric, I was very proud of being picked for Disney as the first country to launch. And meanwhile, you've launched in a lot of other countries. Did you see any differences in terms of not so much in performance or bandwidth capabilities, but more in how interconnection was done? Could you see something there that really is different per country that you've been targeting so far?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, I think the way we kind of looked at it, certainly we were familiar with the U.S. market and North America in general from our work on other properties in the past at what was MLBAM, then became BAMTech, and then Disney Streaming Services. but certainly there was some newer markets that we were going into, and particularly in areas all along Europe, a lot of different carriers and a lot of different distributed systems, smaller internet service providers, smaller end networks that we had to concern ourselves with, that presented some interesting challenges. You know, we don't directly deal with the peering with those partners, but we deal with them through our partnerships with content delivery networks. And what we end up seeing is, as we're monitoring end user performance, we can see it across specific networks where those challenges and those hotspots start to pop up. And in diving in with our CDN partners, sometimes discover that it's just capacity. There's only so much capacity with those partners, only so much available along the interconnects that either they've already established or that are actually established with that, that small carrier. So it leads to interesting challenges. There are also quite a large amount of different countries that we've gone into that are, islands off of France, islands in the that are connected, as part of the United Kingdom, and we start to, or as part of Great Britain, and we start to see with that area and with that region, certainly a more unique challenge. You have ISPs working with us as content providers, asking us to potentially shape traffic in a specific way because their peering links are designed in such a way. And it's a world and a paradigm that you don't necessarily face or have to concern yourselves with in North America or even within United Kingdom, but certainly in smaller countries and smaller regions, it's a new challenge and a good challenge. It puts you more involved in the ecosystem as a whole as a content provider. And certainly for me, at least, it kind of reinforced the work we were doing as part of Open Caching and the Streaming Video Alliance, because it brought to mind that the ideas and the architectures we've talked about are certainly valid, but certainly empowering these smaller providers to take an open standard and deploy it is going to help improve performance and help improve scale across the board in a relatively straightforward, simple manner. So for me, it was definitely a little eye-opening. I kind of knew what we were getting into, but when you're in the ground and you're looking at it day in and day out, it is certainly a fun challenge to ensure that customers everywhere are able to have the highest quality possible.
Good. Well, we'll open the floor for Q&A in a bit, but this is basically a question for you all. Going back to, let's say, the first generation CDNs, the main reason why CDNs actually emerged was primarily to do with connectivity, right? Getting traffic from the different continents, different countries, etc. Well, that was the big reason why they started. Nowadays, that is flipped, where it's more in terms of interconnection with ISPs, power, rack space, etc. So if you look at the future, where do we see the biggest issue? Is this in pure power? Is this in rack space and making sure we have the right interconnection with ISPs? Where are those? Manuel, can you start first? Manuel, you're still muted.
So for me, there will be like there will be a competition for pricing. We already see some very, very, very low pricing, and yeah, one moment there will be some limits, and yet not all part of the world are equal on when it comes to CDN and traffic. So yeah, that will be, I think, one of the challenge to adapt or to match the equipment, the structure, the infrastructure, and the pricing.
Okay, Jason, how do you look at it from your point of view? Do you think it's going to be the biggest issue?
Well, from my standpoint, we're an ISP, so we take other people's content typically, and we move it from the core of our network all the way down to the very deep edge. And so for us, it's how do we do that in the most efficient way? Today with ABR, there's multiple variants and there's multiple formats. And is that the most efficient way to move it from the core to the edge? We're thinking about that, and we're thinking maybe not. Maybe you want to put processing really, really deep in your network and just move CMAP, for example, or a common format, so that you save on a lot of bits. And that's a challenge that we're going through, is it's quite a shift from our current models. And it's going to take a while.
Tom?
So I can sympathize with Manuel on the CapEx costs of deployment. You know, at any one location, any of these things could be an issue. I think density is always a concern, relating to space and power and cabling and air conditioning. You can't stretch a building once it's up, and every rack component needs space and uses so much power. And that power relates to cooling, and the cooling needs power as well. So you're constantly chasing the power at any location. Overall, I would say, bandwidth and network management is the biggest complaint I hear from our team when they're trying to deploy and looking at where they can get connectivity. And sometimes it's not the connectivity that's there, it's how much can you give us. I mean, in one situation, we've been working with ISP for over a year with one problematic regional connection in North America that caused a lot of congestion. So bandwidth certainly at the top of my list.
All right. Guy and Eric, very quickly, because we're already over time for now.
Well, I'll just say as a peering person, I'll say it'll be the peering, the who and where and how much to interconnect.
And Eric?
Yeah, very quickly. I think there's also areas for improvement within caching software and caching deployments on the hardware side that certainly can help improve that. The peering is ultimately only so much, but there are efficiencies you can make. And Jason's point about different platforms and different ABR-based ways to approach things is certainly interesting, and certainly, I'm sure, an area that people will continue to look into.